Hey folks, what's going on? Justin Masson here with Nintendo Dads with another video in the car message. Today's topic is essentially the state of Stadia. And I'm saying this because yesterday it was announced that two games that are currently on Stadia, El Hijo and Bomberman R Online, are becoming available to a bunch of other platforms. And so once something happens with Stadia, we typically get a response. What does this mean for Stadia? What's happening? Is Stadia finally dead? Well, here's the reality, is I don't think so. El Hijo and Bomberman R coming to other consoles is not a sign or indicator that Stadia's done. This is an indicator, as any other indicator would be from a publisher or developer, that they want to monetize as much as possible. They want to recoup costs. They want getting over to other platforms means more people become accessible to their games, which means more people come in, more people pay, right? All of these bonuses that happen. Remember, developers and publishers need money. It's quite simple. Just because a game is completed doesn't mean they don't need more money. They need money for their next project. So to go over to every other platform allows for more audiences, allows for more monetization. This is actually really important. Here's the reality of it, and I don't know the full deal between either of those games. There was most likely an exclusivity or an exclusivity window, maybe 3 months, judging by this announcement here being in middle of March. Probably about 3 months of exclusivity on Stadia and then going to other consoles. I mean, and let's pull this back, because I think whenever anything news happens to Stadia, everyone's happy to be like, oh, this is a sign it's dead. Let's move this back 4 weeks ago, when Fall Guys was announced to be coming to PlayStation and to coming to Xbox and Nintendo Switch. Nobody said, well, does this mean that PlayStation is dead because Fall Guys is moving along to other consoles? No. These are timed exclusives that happen to release and now are available to other consoles. This is not a key indicator that all of a sudden Stadia is dissolving. I will, however, say that I think that when you look at the state of Stadia in general, and this is kind of the commentary around this, there will not be a final, like, this is the thing that collapsed Stadia. I truly kind of believe that Stadia is dying by 1,000 cuts. And I don't mean that, let me be clear. I am not a Stadia needs to be destroyed, Stadia needs to not exist. I believe Stadia is important to push the technology forward. I've enjoyed playing my Stadia. I enjoy the games I've had access to. I think the business strategy or the business model may be a little bit confused, and its challenge is finding its identity. And Stadia needs to find its identity before Google says we've had enough. And Google has done these things in the past, right? And this is the kind of the elephant in the room whenever anyone talks about Stadia, is the fact that Google is notorious for funding an idea for a certain amount of time, not making the leeway it needs or not making the progress it needs, and then cutting it off. And that's, I think, the challenge that in a lot of ways people have with Stadia, because they don't want to invest in something that may inevitably close down in a couple of years when you're paying $60 for a game and you don't physically own it. There's a lot of those pieces that, because of the past of Google and their actions, has kind of put people at kind of an arm's length away of saying, ugh, maybe I want to get into Stadia, but like, man, if all of a sudden they shut down the servers, all that stuff is gone. I don't own anything. I don't have a physical cartridge, right? And that's the concern of cloud gaming in general. The other challenges that Stadia has faced is that first I'd say this, is that there is no exclusivity, or there's no Stadia exclusive, right? There is no, this is Stadia first party. As we think of something like Nintendo or Xbox or PlayStation, they have these games that are like, that's what draws me to. I pick up a Nintendo console because I play Zelda. I pick up a Xbox because it's got Halo. I pick up PlayStation because it's got Last of Us, right? These are games that draw you specifically to those consoles. Google doesn't have that. Google is a distributor of everyone else's content, which is fine. Their first-party studio that they had invested in, they've shut down, right? Most likely looking to trim the fat. And I don't mean that disparaging for people who are laid off, but most likely that's the business strategy move of that, right? The other challenge that I think Stadia has had is when they have found a game that maybe they can really kind of lean into and say, like, this is coming to Google Stadia, let's get hyped about it, let's promote it, it's a great opportunity here. There are a couple games that come to mind for this one. The first one is actually Marvel's Avengers. And I think that was a good game for them to promote. I think it was a good game to say, like, yeah, you can get it on Stadia, it's awesome. But the game was kind of mediocre, and Square Enix isn't happy with the sales. And, you know, it's kind of received like a 7 or 8 in the gaming community. So it's not a banger. It's not like, yeah, it's okay. And I think that to draw people into a game, it can't be okay. And so I think that was probably a bit of a challenge for them. And then the other one that, again, and that's not their, that like Stadia didn't create Marvel's Avengers. That was created by somebody else. They're just a distributor. But if it's not the game that's like, it's not a 10, it's not drawing people, you're like, I have to buy it. Because you're looking for an audience of individuals who don't currently have access to that game. So someone like me, right? So was Marvel's Avengers the game to make me pull the trigger on Stadia? No, it wasn't. Because it wasn't like a 10 or 11, right? It wasn't off the chart. Not everyone's talking about it. The conversation is like, yeah, it's meh. That's not great. Now, where Google Stadia had some success in this case was actually in Cyberpunk, right? They did a great job promoting, like, hey, Cyberpunk is coming to Stadia. Hey, by the way, if you get Cyberpunk, you get Stadia. As that's actually how I got mine. And so they did a great job pushing that. The unfortunate part of that is the narrative that happened around Cyberpunk afterwards. And not to anyone's fault, not to Google's fault, not to Stadia's fault, but the fault of CD Projekt Red. Is all the noise, the concerns, the challenges, the lawsuits, the negative press about it. All of a sudden, it took something that you know, if Cyberpunk was a 10 out of 10 and it was a banger and like everyone is invested and thought it was the most brilliant thing, and Stadia could be like, this is where you get the best experience of it right now without download patch, they could have used it as a good PR beat to promote themselves more. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, right? And again, that's not Google Stadia's fault. That's CD Projekt Red's use of Cyberpunk, right? Just unfortunate. Even great example is even right now with Outriders coming out soon, right? It's coming to Google Stadia. This could be a job. This could be a game. There's some hype. There's some excitement about it. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, come get it. There was no demo for Stadia. And then sure enough, a couple days ago, Xbox like, yeah, it's coming to Xbox Game Pass. Day and date. Okay, well, I guess that's another cut against them, right? So I don't think Stadia is dead. I think Stadia is still trying to find its business model. I think Stadia is trying to find its identity. Stadia is trying to figure out what they are, and I think they're trying to evolve that. So I think, you know, games like Il Hijo and Super Bomberman are coming to other platforms isn't a sign that Stadia is dead. It's not dead yet. It's not dead yet. But I think Stadia's window to be able to find its identity, find its footing, is probably narrowing quicker than we want it to be. Again, my commentary is I think Stadia is important. I think evolution of gaming is important. I think more competition is important. And despite whether you like gaming, cloud gaming or not, it appears to be the way the future is going right now. And someone has to kind of step out there and kind of take a shot to the nose and get bloodied about it. And right now, that's Google Stadia. Hopefully you've kind of liked my state of Stadia and my thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Google Stadia? What do you think of cloud gaming? Am I crazy? Who knows? Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.